So this is what we're looking at here. So a few buttons to click there. So notice here, I'm going to go to my theme before give my notes there. So notice here, why do some only consider mainstream and not alternative? And so this here is what I'm going to talk about now from my health point of view. Why do some, which is my theme, why do some only consider what we call it here now, mainstream and not alternative? The safety of mainline and mainstream government, other approved channels and system. So with health, this becomes very important because when we say something like is FDA approved, we normally say there's a panel of people that approve a certain drug or a certain modality of treatment or certain people to treat the sick. And we say, well, that is FDA approved. So we can say, well, that's comfortable. And so alternative, there's no such thing as and I'm going to talk about this article that's in the news with bee pollen and how that can be something that is not FDA approved. So since it's not FDA approved, it should not be used. This is how the society would be. But not only society does this. What I'm saying is that the society is very aggressive against anything natural. And because of that, I think that there's been some massive curses in the society for doing this. But the idea here is that there we would consider anything that is mainstream and say, well, mainstream government, whatever, that's supposed to be good. But if you say to certain people anything that is natural, they would, the society's program, I believe, in being aggressive against it. And then, so if there's a solution that they're supposed to be had, or that's supposed to be had, that is not a government approved solution, they will fight against it and they would reject it and talk about it as being crack quackery and stuff like that, or use the government to enforce anything or any measures behind it. And so, if there's any negative results from anything that is natural, it will be blurted over the news and keep the people in that type of sheeple mindset where they're constantly thinking that if it's natural, it must be dangerous. And so, this is a society we live in, and I'm going to use this article here as an example. Very simple. So, notice here. So, what makes a person a child and or head of of the system or these systems, or how the person become that? So you would think now that if a person is the head of the system, so from the president down to all the king's horses and all the king's men, they're supposed to be only use chemicals, nothing else natural. I don't even think they're supposed to eat food that is not genetically engineered. This is kind of the stance of the government. But is this penning out into the blessing of the people? I'll read again my main text. My main text is found in John chapter 7, verse 5 through 8. And in John chapter 7, verse 5 through 8, Christ says the statement, for neither did his brethren believe him. So it is said of Christ that his brethren didn't believe him, what he was saying, that he's going to be crucified and is not going to be welcomed by the mainline or the system at large. Then Jesus said unto them, my time is not yet come, but your time is always ready. And we would say in modern English, always ready. The world cannot hate you, but me it hated, because I testify of it, that the works thereof are evil. Go ye up unto this feast. I go not yet unto this feast, for my time is not yet full come. So most naturally, here Christ is saying, you can go away. You go to the feast. You're always ready to go to the feast. They will welcome you. But for me, they will not welcome me, because I testify that their works are evil. So this is the people who wanted to kill Christ, or is the system itself. And so Christ represent to me what it is, an alternative, another view of what things are supposed to be. And when we talk about natural health, you'll always have to go and study Standard Oil and the Rockefellers and know how they made it that in America, the only thing that you can use to heal or to treat or to relieve pain, suffering, diseases is drugs that are FDA approved. This is the fact. And most Americans are not aware of this fact. They live in that world that they don't understand why the world is the way it is. And so for many people, they're suffering and there's no alternative when it comes on to anything to relieve their afflictions. And this is a problem. So when we in this type of environment and in this type of situation, all right, let me just do this. Forget I had something else I have to do. When we're in this type of situation, right, where we are we are already living in a society where this is the way the society has been structured and this is what it is, and we don't know why it is like that. We're just caught. But here's the thing that is empirical. Whether or not somebody will say, it's like somebody said to me, said, Lloyd, this is not the world we live in. We live in a different world. I say, okay, but what is the results? Is the results the children of the system, the the people who are the head of the system, what are their outcomes? The people who believe in what is told to them, that there's no other alternative but drugs for your disease. If you're sick, the only thing you can do is take drugs. And that's it. What are the results? The people who believe that really anything that is genetically modified is really there to solve, what we call it, hunger in Africa. The people who believe that type of narrative, is their outcome superior to the people that would say is inferior and don't have science to help them to solve their afflictions? And that's the thing that it is startling. So this is what I want to peruse in your mind and for you, and as for you to hear me out as I do this talk, because there's many, as I say, who believe in the current structure of how things are in America, specifically, primarily in America. And if you notice, almost all the time when there is any lawsuit, whether it be for the major tech companies or for the major drug manufacturer, a lot of the lawsuits come from Europe. And so they are believers because they believe that they evolve, but they are not as big a believer as America. America has been controlled. But what is the end result of the citizens that believe this, and how are they doing? So this is a point, one of the points I want to bring to you before I bring the article up. I read some of the article and then I'm going to read the whole thing, but some of the articles and then some of this article, and then I'm going to read for you some Bible text. So notice here, my topic again is the narrative of blessing and curses as it relates to as it relates to the aggression against natural. So as it relates to the aggression against natural, this is my process of meditation here, and just adjusting some stuff here. So here we go. So I believe, because I've done mortgages in the past as a mortgage rep, I believe in subprime loan or subprime loans has their place. So I believe that if you know, in an environment where somebody's trying to buy a house, that you know you have a subprime loan, the person can buy a loan. So say if the interest rate now is say 8%, and somebody out there going to buy a house and they go buy a 10% interest rate at 10%, whatever the reason is, that would qualify them for that or make them be have to be able to buy at that rate, which is be so high and exorbitant. That there's people out there that needs to have that. The criteria are set for them. You know, how they would teach it is like there's some people that they make their money probably 3-4 times a year. They do big contracts, whatever. They can't fit into a regular monthly schedule. They can't fit into anything like that. So for them, a kind of I don't know what it is, an alternative financing method has to work for them. The regular method won't work because they could have one thing, and all year long, 1-2 things go through, and that's how they make their money. So every year they make a certain amount of money, but they don't fit into regular criteria because of their job. So what the problem was is that when subprime loans were being done, it came to a point where they were handing those things out like candies. A lot of people were getting, not everybody, but a lot of people were getting them. And it was that the criterias were normally fit for not regular income earners, people that probably, they make a certain amount of money, but there's something probably unorthodox with their income. And because of that, the mortgage companies and stuff who did that, they will look the other way and say, give the person a loan. This person can repay, but there's some things probably not on the table. There's some things that there's a way they make their money. As I said, they could make their money by just making one or two big contracts, and they make the money. And so there's time period where they just go in drought, but unconventional. So similar when it comes on to drugs, there's a place for drugs. And there's a place for somebody to say, let's run through the criteria and see who can use these drugs. Who is the person that is fit to use these drugs? And then in that criteria, you give the drugs out. But what happened now is that you could have a situation where the person who is being given the drugs is they start to say, well, let's broaden the criteria because now the companies need to make money. This is something you can research. And what it is now somebody who will be, that drug will fit a very narrow segment of the population, become now a blockbuster drugs. And everybody is taking it. And this you can see in the history of Prozac and Xanax and some of those blockbuster drugs. They became too widely used, where everybody would, and the mother and the grandmother was taking that stuff. And you look at the lawsuits with CVS and Rite Aid and stuff like that. That would tell you the story. This happens in America, but somebody say, well, the government was on the case. Yeah, but this is where now alternatives will come in, and people are trying to sound the alarm in the alternative world, not the major media, that says something is wrong. And this is what's happening underground. But if you cut out and you just say we only stick with the main line, what if the main line become corrupted? Because what we know is human beings are subject to corruption and doing bribes, taking hush money. Hush money means you give you this money, you keep quiet, or you look the other way. And because of this, sometimes a lot of time you have to have alternatives. But there's people who will shut their ears to alternative as if not these things don't happen, and they're in la la land, and they always get destroyed in the kids because they don't consider any of the source. So I believe that says drugs serves a purpose, especially emergency medicine. But I don't believe that you live on emergency medicine, right? You use that thing because we have emergency in this world. As I say, if you want to do an operation, you're going to have to use drugs. You have to use something very powerful to take out the pain if somebody start cutting you while you're alive. But there's people who will say, oh no, because there's a use for drugs, that the only thing to consider when it comes on to your sickness and your pain is only drugs, because it has to be FDA approved. But why would FDA have to prove food? Because herbs and anything, certain healing modalities are just really food. You're just taking something that, it's a plant. It's something that you could cook, like there's this thing called maca, MACA. And in South America, they say, I think Peru, they eat it as a starch, but it is sold as something for energy, libido, stuff like that. Again, but that's something that they eat regular. But somebody be like, oh no, that's not FDA approved. It don't need to be FDA approved. It's just a food. It's just something that somebody drink as a tea. It's just like people over here drink a lot of coffee and green tea. Well, there's people who drink ginseng and stuff as just a tea. It's just something that enhances you, just like you would eat food. But somebody would say, why is that FDA? It can't be FDA. Why is FDA FDA? It's not a drug. It's not something that it needs to be given to a narrow segment of the population. And it's something that is just a food. People in other countries just drink it like how you would drink coffee. It's just what they drink in the morning. There's certain herbs that, people just drink it. Dandelion is a grass, something in our grass that mess up our lawn. But there's people who take it as just a herb. It's just something that you go drink, and it just make you purge, you do whatever it is. So it is that type of ideology. It's not even something where it is one is wrong and the other one is right. It's just a matter of how you view the subject. So when you have a society that has been programmed 100 years ago by the Rockefeller, by the Standard Oil Company, that there's an aggressive campaign to make sure that drugs become the mainstay of America. A person that born in the other generation don't know about the war that was fought and why there is a negative on something that is just food or just a herb or just something that for 6,000 years human beings use. And now we in this modern world, they say, well, if it's not scientifically approved or it didn't pass rigorous tests, it's not going to go. And this is the narrative that we have in a society. And again, there's things that might become a fad that not supposed to be a fad. As I say, in the time when they had the subprime debacle, subprime loans became a fad. People who were supposed to just get a regular 30-year fix, um, vanilla ice cream, run of the mill, interest rate and loan, start being put in subprime loans. And then that created a problem. And so then people who couldn't afford a second home and a third home start buying a second home, a rental property and stuff like that. And then they took on more than they could handle. And then when the economy basically things imploded, they just have to dump those houses in the market. They dump too many houses in the market, and the system crashed. And then they push the rate of homes up. So the madness had to be corrected. And so in people's personal health, what happened is that the same thing, a person that is aggressive against anything natural, and like I remember something I was saying to somebody to taste something, and they tasted and said that's an acquired taste, and I'm like, ginger is an acquired taste. There's people who drink ginger all day long. Ginger it would be classified as something you drink, and then something is a herb. But there's people who say, well, that's an acquired taste. What is that? Why is that an acquired taste? So this is kind of the mindset that we're dealing with in the society. But are they? This is my point now. Are they not suffering with all kind of debility and weaknesses and weird diseases because they refuse to eat anything that is not chemical based and see it as some type of weird acquired taste, weirdness? And why did they get this mindset? This is the society we live in. So notice here, I believe in mainline government approved system, but also alternative because humans get corrupt. This is one of my main thing I've learned over the years. That over the years, how many people have been taken out for bribe? They take bribe and they got caught. And so was this drug really approved? Or was it the approval was based upon an envelope? Somebody passed the envelope and they say, well, this drug is approved. Wink, wink. And many people don't look at that. So in their mind, it's just drugs all day long. Notice here, I can buy a product produced by the union or by non-union workers. This is basically my thought. If I go and buy a car, I could buy a car that is produced by union workers, or I could buy a car that's produced by non-union workers. There's people who say, unless it's a unionized labor, I can't buy the car. Sure, that's a free country. But why should that stance make it that I now should not be able to buy that car that is produced by a non-union worker? Their stand and my stand is two different stand. My stand is, if the car is good, I buy it. Their stand is no, it has to be union workers. Really? Why? And is the car better? So what if the car is not better? Oh, no. You have to, this is the mindset. And this is the mindset of so many people when it comes on to even things like health. It transfers over. It is like us against them. It is like a competition. And so why is it a competition? You can do what you do and I do what I do. But I think in a society like this, what it is that somebody won. There's a battle. Big money was put down. And then you see the result of somebody won. But who really won? Who won that it is that you only should do drugs if you're sick? And doctors cannot tell you, say, you might be able to, you need to start drinking some water. And somebody say, is water FDA approved? This is a society we live in. It is wild and crazy. And this creates a certain mindset that you can't even speak to it because you're automatically viewed as, I guess, not only alternative, but I guess quacky and weird, where, it's like there's people that pop sodas all day long. And you look at them and you're like, they look like they have not drank water in years. It is horrendous. But yet they'll say, well, yeah, it's my doctor say. What do your doctor say? Your doctor is bought and sold. So notice here, I can believe in technology but not buy technology. I can. No, you can believe in technology and buy technology and so forth because many people, we're in a modern world and we are overcoming the disease of Western Europe. Really? You're overcoming the disease of Western Europe back in the Dark Ages. And we in a modern world. No, do you believe that? And somebody say, "Oh yeah, because we believe that." Then look at the people. Look at their results. Is those disease really overcome, or we have created a new set of diseases, a new set of weird diseases? I remember a few years ago, there would be children that are born with, and then within a few years they have leukemia. And then I think last year I learned, or the beginning of the year, that there's children birth, they in the womb, they already have cancer. And I was like, that's amazing. It's like things are getting worse. Then you find out that the kids are being birthed, and the moment they're already out with organs outside of them and stuff like that. But yet, you say to the person, can you do you believe in nutrients? Yeah, if it's chemical, you mean like multivitamin? No, nutrients, like plant based nutrients, right? None of that. And what it is that you are creating a whole bunch of weirdness and all kind of diseases that it makes your head spin. But there's an aggression against things that are natural. And you look at it as to why people are going to be just allergic to plants, just looking at even at them, because the society has become so scientific based and chemical based. But who made that? Who told them that this is where life is supposed to be? And would make them see like even what I'm talking about here is absolute rebellion. This is the mindset. So I believe that bleach is effective in some application, not to be injected up my arm, not to be put where, again, it has application. If I go somewhere and I swim in a pool, okay, I understand. There's just a lot of people there. There's probably fecal matter in the pool, all kind of stuff like that. So, you probably want to swim in a sea of bleach there because it's better to swim in bleach, I guess, than to swim in fecal matter. So does that mean now that I'm gonna take bleach because it's so great and I'm gonna lather myself with it? Understand the purpose of it, understand where it's there. But again, if you understand how bacteria work, that it will constantly morph and change and become resistant to anything that you hit it with, because life continues to grow and it morphs. It what they say, it evolves. Let's use that word. So we understand that, say, yeah, you could use something, but you have to understand the, what is it called, the risk you're taking, because there is a risk. And the risk is that drugs and disease become drugs resistant. And so if a person is just saying, all I do is I just believe in this stuff and I don't take anything else, does that person understand that anything that is a drug, diseases and living matter become resistant to it and morphs and changes to be able to overcome it? And after a while, you could wipe that surface all you want. There would be disease resistance that building up in the bacteria and the viruses, whatever. And you can't kill them. You can't take them out. And so you take risk. And we are knowledgeable of that risk. But again, if I'm jumping in a pool, I'm also knowledgeable risk that if there's too much fecal matter in the pool and too much urine in the pool and stuff like that, that I probably need to have something in there to protect me. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna lather myself with that stuff. But there's people who can't walk and chew gum. And if they do that, they'll trip over and drop. And you say, get up. And they'll be like, oh, no, I'm getting confused here. So do I use drugs or do I not use drugs? And that's what the problem is, because there's a narrative of blessing and cursing. And a person who would just simply say, unless, Lloyd, it is something that is absolutely, how would I say this? Like, there can't be no alternative. And I'm like, yeah, there can be alternative. You go to sea, you go to the beach, you go to the sea, right? And you jump in the water. There's no bleach in the sea water. There's salt, lots of salt. What does it do? It keep things clean a certain way. And there's the sun. The sun is baking down on it, and it does that. Can you do that in a public pool? I guess not. But you understand my point, or you get my drift. There's other ways to do it that are natural, that will not cause any type of drug resistance. But there's people who, if I say that to them, they go nuts. They cannot keep two thoughts in their mind. And the point is that you're trying to reduce bacteria or outbreaks. So what you do, you have all alternatives. So if you had the money and the time, I would say, well, probably experiment on doing something with salt water. But this would not probably be effective for a public swimming pool. I get that. But doesn't mean that I say I don't believe that bleach can be effective. I just believe that one has to be careful what you're doing, because this is an established science. And that's the thing is, when you say alternative, people believe it's not scientific. and there's no option. There's option. This is why we study natural. Why we study natural? Because we're looking at the idea that there is options out there, and the options might not always be ready, and might not be able to produce at what you call it, industrial scale. But it does not mean that there's no option. So when you look at people that only go with one narrative, and they can't consider that, they can't hold two thoughts. That one thought is, well, in certain environment, probably the bleach will work. But if you can create another environment that you do something that's not bleach, like the sea, and the sea does salt water and it does sun, and it keeps itself purified. And then notice now what happened when you go to an area where brackish water is, where that means where a river meets the sea. Oftentimes you have certain bacteria alive, and people get flesh-eating bacteria and stuff like that, and could get amputation or die. So then you see that there's a result. The salt water does have a protective thing, and then fresh water has to be purified other way or freshened other way. But we look at that and we say there's always option, but there's people who are aggressive against anything that's called option, because they've been told that this is modernity, this is the process of evolution. We have come to a far degree. But look at the people who believe that, and are they healthy? Are they not falling apart literally rapidly? Rapid aging, rapid disease, a lot of birth defects and stuff like that. But yet, an apple a day is not going to be something they partake of. They probably only partake of, apple syrup, which is, apple juice a lot of the time. So I believe what is depopulating the global north, right? So somebody would say, well, the most advanced people on the planet is being depopulated. And then there's all these conspiracy theorists that would be why someone like Alex Jones and those people who talk all kind of crazy stuff would be famous. Why? Because they're telling you that there's something that is damaging people in the global north. And people in the global north pay attention to people like him, because he's telling them things that there might be some truth there at times, and there's a lot of nonsense at times. But they're telling something that they can be comfortable with, thinking that it's not my action, and it's not what my action or my government doing, like being aggressive against anything natural. It is just there's some Baphomet, creepy people that are trying to kill me off. And who are they? They're all my people. So, and people eat that because you don't want to admit the fact that probably this aggression against anything natural is just brainless and mindless. And it's not because you're aggressive against anything natural. It's because the Rockefellers and those drug people had won to tell Americans that the only thing to do is just drugs. So what's all the paranoia about? So why again? Because remember, the results are still coming in. See, so is whether or not there's a conspiracy and whether or not they shut down, because I remember a year or two ago they shut down Alex Jones and just sued him out of well, I think he's still out there, but they sued him and teared him down because he's keep doing his paranoia, which he's paranoid for true, but he's not paranoid for the right things, because he's paranoid, because I remember when I realized that he was 49, I was like, he's like 49 going 70, and or 48 at the time, or 47. I was like, this is a 47-year-old grandfather. So he's a product of what we're talking about here. But yet of course he's gonna be paranoid. So what is all about this paranoia? Like there's somebody going against you, yeah, because the systems are set in place where you have government doing raid on people that are natural and trying to destroy anything that's natural. And there's crazy people out there that's doing natural stuff that's hurting people. I'm gonna go to an article in a second. So can I and a people fear their people? So can I and the people who are their people fear their people? Because this is where some of these paranoia come in. Because if your system has told you that anything natural is terrible, 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 ginseng, oh, don't take that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Don't take ginseng. And then, but you're taking all the drugs and you're washing, you're lathering yourself with all this toxic chemical, and you're dying of weird diseases, and your aging process is rapid. Then you can say, wait a minute, but I'm a living terror to myself because I'm falling apart. And the more drugs I take, like if one drug is good, then take 70, take about 100. That's supposed to be better. Like take it like supplement. So if this is not helping, then you would say alternative, but you can't say alternative in the system because the system is a drug, drug, drug. And so, and then they put out articles to scare people into thinking that there's not a thing but what, there's no alternative and only mainstream. And then they become the children of mainstream. But what is their results? The result is a rapid aging. The result is weird diseases. The result is children born with their organs outside of them. The result is all kind of stuff. And it's just then they have to create more drugs, more bioengineering, more biotech, more, and it's still not solving the problem. So what happened if you are experiencing all the scary movies you watch? What if you are the scary movie? What if in health, everything that you've watched is just you become the nightmare that you're watching, and then somebody's telling you, "Oh no, let's take more drugs," and be like, and then you get more nightmare, and they say, "Well, for that nightmare, take this drugs," and you get more nightmares, and there's no thought about what going on outside my window there, what's going on with the trees and the plants and the birds and the bees. There's nothing that one can consider because that's quackery and that is wild, crazy stuff that only crazy people. And so, why do some only consider mainstream and not alternative? Because they've been brainwashed into thinking that says an apple a day is not good. What we need to do is take the apple, cook the apple, make some juice with the apple, cook the apple, and then create juice from concentrate, and that's what you drink, and that's sterilized and pasteurized and homogenized, and it is good because it's dead, and it's so dead that nothing will live, even you won't live from doing that. So the narrative of blessing and cursing as it is related to the aggression. So they have been very aggressive in our society against anything to do with natural, and the end result is has been following very aggressive, and then everything is quack. I won't be able to read this whole article here, but I'll take a little piece of the article. It's one of the headline news I saw yesterday. It's a very long article. You can read it yourself over there in NBC News, written by somebody. I can't remember who wrote it. I didn't copy that. So it's the title of the article. I use it as an example of how the society and how the machine of the society, the chemical society that we live in, how it functions and how it curses its own. So notice here, bee pollen for breast growth went viral. But now TikTokers say they're paying a price. And so I'll just read the beginning of it and then I tell you something. But you can have to read the whole thing yourself. It's a long article, but I'll take a piece of it. On the hunt for bigger breasts, women on TikTok this summer buzzed over bee pollen, a mixture of plant and powder pollen, as well as nectar and bee saliva, yummy, that accumulate on the insect's body and is used for honey production. After a handful of content creators suggest it could boost estrogen level, dozens of women began tossing it into their smoothies and yogurts with the hope of increasing their breast size. So yeah, I'm clear. In the article, they interviewed a female that took it and she ended up in a hospital. And you can go on. Oh, this is from USA Today, and it was one of the top headline news yesterday. Because you have to make this a top headline news to save the women from bee pollen. So one of the featured TikToker that went to hospital, it was a Asian woman. I don't know if she was a Chinese or Korean, but she's from Asia. So I guess she's like ground zero when it comes on to breast enlargement. I don't know why she was interviewed. So that's what it is. So she was trying to increase her cup size, as the article said, with hopes of increasing their cup size. So notice here, now about 4 months after the trend dominated women's, uh, I think it's hashtag FYP, I don't know, FYP, video detailing mild to severe allergic reaction and changes in menstruation, such as heavier bleeding, more painful cramps, are springing up online. These unintended consequences, experts say, serve as a reminder that natural isn't always safe, which is true, especially if you have an allergic reaction to something. So is drugs. Drugs ain't always safe. They should have put here, and so is drugs also. It's not always safe. Um, I've seen this over and over again. An influencer with no scientific or medical background speak to something that they're doing and something they're being paid to talk about, yet none of it based upon science, says Dr. Alison Rogers, OBGYN, and productive endocrinologist at the Fertility Center of Illinois. So notice here, bee pollen has been used for centuries as a natural medicine. Ancient Egyptians used to call it a life-giving dust, as it contains vitamins, minerals, carbohydrate, polyphenols, and other active compounds that have been associated with immune system benefits and even anti-allergic properties. Today, jars of bee pollen can be bought online for $25. That's cheap for breast enlargement. If it works, that's a good point. And and most brands recommend a serving of a teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon a day can get your breast larger. What is it? 1 cup size or 2 cup size? So just think about this, right? So in the article here, I've seen bee pollen sold in the health food store. I remember years back I tried. I have allergic reactions to stuff, so I don't think it worked for me because I never tried it again. I don't even remember what happened. You see something in the thing and say, "Oh, let's buy this." Because here's the thing with things like vaccine. That's me here talking now, not reading the article. So with like vaccines and stuff like that, the idea is you expose the person to like a pathogen in a weaker form, and then if the body create enough antihistamines or not antihistamines, but whatever white blood cell reaction, and learn the virus, the body will not be able to fight it off because the body is now has learned it, killed it, and then figure out how to kill it. So it will give the person what they call immunity. That's what, I guess, in the basic context, what immunity works. So with the bee pollen, sometimes pollen can be allergic. You create allergies to this is how I understand it work. It creates you have an allergic reaction to like pollen in the air. So that's like on springtime, and so you expose yourself to the pollen, and somehow some of the cofactors and all this thing in it, you don't it makes the body be able to withstand it. That's the basic it's similar to like vaccine from what I this is years back I read this, so I can't even remember fully, but that's something along that lines. And so for $25, somebody would take that, and then it wards off some of the allergic reaction. I can't remember exactly what it is. I remember buying one bottle. I think I can see it now. Probably 20 years ago, it was like one of these cylindrical bottle, which all of them are cylindrical, and then it's like a green and yellow label and stuff like that. I think I took it for a little bit, and I don't think it did anything for me. My allergic reactions are kind of terrible anyhow, so it takes a lot to do something for me. So, but studies have yet to analyze how and if bee pollen can affect breast growth and menstruation. So even though the article goes a long way because they have to really double down and solve this problem. What you know in anything natural, whether it be food, we have allergies because people end up in the hospital for foods that they're allergic to. That's somebody else. You could be at a table and there's 4 people and one person gets an allergic reaction and the other 3 people like, oh, I digest that. That's no problem. That's life. So because somebody taking something doesn't mean that there's a big scare here and natural is dangerous. It's just that that person has it. There's things that I don't eat that my wife eat. It doesn't mean that says the thing is bad. It just mean that I have allergic reactions to a lot of stuff. So I have to be careful. So I test something, and if it gives me a certain reaction, I just like, okay, that's not for me. It might be for somebody else. So notice they didn't test it. It's not test. And there are people I know that need to know. They would want to know. They would want to do some testing. Like the government need to test to see if bee pollen can make breasts grow. There's a lot of people would want to know that, both male and female. Not the male for them, their breasts to grow. So, but then affecting menstruation, that again is something. Somebody could take something and affect the menstruation. Another person take it and it doesn't. It doesn't mean that say it's not something that would work. I don't believe, I've never heard this though. This was fascinating that bee pollen could make breasts grow. And the lady that was in the article, as I say, the interview was an Asian lady. So, but even this article, trust me, there's people gonna read this article and gonna say, what if I don't get the allergic reaction that my breast grow. And what the thing is that I read the article, after a while I had to stop and go to the end, because what it is that the article, I'm trying to find where in it did they interview the people that breast grow, their breast grow. Because if their breast grow, they should have interviewed them. And then because there's a lot of people who want to know this, because some people say I'll risk it. Breast growth enlargement. How many cup size? I'm not. I don't have allergies. So Jana Kim, Kim, which is I think this lady, 23-year-old, decided to try bee pollen to help alleviate unbearable symptoms that began about coming off her birth control pill, such as hot flash and lack of appetite. So there's other things that she should have used to alleviate that. I don't think breast bee pollen could alleviate. Could it? I don't know. So Kim heard from people on TikTok that supplements might help. So she gave it a shot. This supplement, bigger breasts, Kim said, wasn't what she was after, but would be a plus because you could get a plus size. Isn't that cute? So notice here, she's was adding half a teaspoon of bee pollen in her morning smoothie for a month after experiencing severe allergy reaction that landed her in the hospital. I was sipping on my smoothie while going to my eyebrow, while doing my eyebrows, sorry, when I noticed my eyes were super glossy and warm. Kim said is a graduate student of dermatology and she's somewhere over there in Arizona. Within a minute, her symptom progressed and she rushed to the emergency department. I tried to drink water in my car and it would pool in the back of my closed throat. I started seeing stars because I couldn't breathe. And then they continue on with the story. You have to read it because I have to go back to some of my texts. So I'll go to the end of the article here because I always have to read the things. So this doctor here said most allergic reaction to bee pollen are likely to occur the first time someone eats it. But in some cases, the immune system may need more time to develop sensitivity to it. Surer, says the doctor that they interviewed. So this is true, right? Because the body, just like with vaccine, the body take the time, it learns it, the white blood cell, okay, and it's okay, now I'm used to it. So he's saying the same thing I was saying. Does the doses matter too? If you eat 1 teaspoon, you might be fine, but if you eat 2 or 3 teaspoons, you can experience anaphylaxis. He says, everybody threshold for reacting are different, which also depends on factors like whether you recently exercised or drank alcohol. So you notice here, this is a more reasonable statement at the end. Sure, or a suspect that bee pollen allergies may become more common as more people eat it, and he warns that supplements aren't approved by the FDA for safety and effectiveness before hitting the market, so consume with caution, which is why I wanted to read the end here, because that is a reasonable three reasonable statements there in just 2 paragraphs. They put it at the end, they should put it at the beginning, my personal opinion, because you're doing a scare that not to be a scare. There's people who are allergic to peanut. It doesn't mean peanut can't be eaten, right? There's people who are allergic to whatever. So as he said, you partake with caution. If you don't have an allergic reaction, then go ahead. And if you do it, just think about it. If she had done this and she fixed her menstrual problem and then get bigger breasts, she probably be so grateful. She'd be like, this is amazing. $25 a bottle? Come on now. That thing would be flying off the shelf. So this is the type of stuff. Now notice here why I put this, share this article here. Because there's a narrative of blessing and cursing. And but the problem with the curse part is that there is a part of the society that's very aggressive against anything natural. And this is a negative thing, because this aggression against anything natural without reason is that apples are not FDA approved, but they have antioxidant. Ginseng is not FDA approved, but it has energy and stamina and stuff results. This is a fact. Everybody's going to take in ginseng and get results? No. Is somebody going to take it and get an allergic reaction? Yes. So they just have to just tiptoe into it, and then if you tiptoe into it, whatever. Somebody else takes something and they don't have no reaction. I take it, I'm dying. That's just a fact. we move on from there. There's more I could say there, but that's very interesting. So breast enlargement, who would have thought? Bee pollen. Never would thought bee pollen could make your breast larger. Oh, and they were saying there, one of the things I skipped in the article, that they have not shown that bee pollen affect estrogen levels and stuff like that. So that's what I was thinking. It would have to be something that affect estrogen levels. But if you're out there and you've taken this and this has give you larger, you probably could share a testimony. In Luke chapter 23, verse 27 through 31, it says, "And there followed him a great company of people and women which also bewailed and lamented him. But Jesus turning unto them said, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourself and for your children. For behold, the days are coming in the which they shall say, Blessed are the barren and the wombs that never bear, and the paps which never gave suck. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. For if they do this thing in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry?" So this is where the thing is that when you look at a system for money, will do this to their people, then there's a problem. What they did to Jesus Christ, if they do that to him, what would they do to the rest of the people? And that's how you have to look at it. If they can be so cruel and wicked, even to this day, the Jewish people can be so cruel and wicked to Jesus, and they can be so cruel and wicked to these people, then you say, what would they do to me? See, this is how you have to look at life. Because some people say, well, they do it to them, but me, I'm one of their favorites. Really? You can be never the favorite of a wicked person. It's just sooner or later they're going to take everybody out. And this is how I look at life. If you can be so aggressive for money and for FDA approved and drugs and things that you get, the doctors are getting kickback, what would they do to you? When you look at what they did to Black America when it comes on to flooding their community and destroying their community with drugs, what it is, white America should have looked at it and said, I'm scared of my own people, and I need to be cautious. But they thought, well, I'm on the in. They're not going to do that to me. And what ended up happening? The doctors flood them with drugs and just destroy. You know, I remember, as I say, I've said it here before because it's standing out in my mind. Of all the articles I've read an article where a family was, one family in, I think, Ohio or somewhere there, Indiana, one of those places, white family, were burying, I think it was Pennsylvania, was burying, I was going to one funeral every month for kids on the 18-year-olds. One family end up in 12 months, they said they went to 14 funerals of children, teenagers. And I read that and I said, man, that broke my heart, because I'm thinking, didn't I not think that what they were seeing their fellow compadres and their fellow citizens were doing to the Black community, that was going to head to their community? When the jobs were being taken from Detroit after civil rights movement and shipped abroad, especially to China, they didn't think that's what those jobs were going to take from their community. You look at the production of the big three in Detroit, and you look at how the production have basically been decimated since the 70s. What goes around comes around. So when you're moral or you're righteous, you say, no, you can't do that to those people over there, because I see the same people do it to them will do it to me. But they didn't look at it like that. And so now you have a system where there's a generation of people, they're receptacles for drugs, and there's no other option. And none of their pastors are saying that because they themselves are drug users. And they can say it because they believe in the system and they have no philosophies different. But I'm here to tell you that you have to look at the evils that others are doing, even if it's not being done to you. And you have to look at, mark that person and say, that person is wicked, and they'll do it to me. We have a society that believe that if you use the word scientific, and one of the things they mentioned in the article, that this is a problem because more and more the society is leaning towards natural. You know why the society is leaning towards natural? Because they're getting bust up by all these people, drug. And it's not solving their problems. And the body needs nutrients, it needs whole foods, not the store I'm talking about, the things in the store, right? And this is a fact. So if they do that to Jesus, the person would think, oh, weep, Jesus is dying. You'd be like, Jesus is dying. They're going to kill you and your kids. And that's what happened in Israel. Oh, no, the Jews are persecuting the Palestinians. I'd be like, they don't care for you. These people with these power hungry stuff. Like, why would they put you in such danger? I think the people are in danger. You're surrounded by enemies on every side, and you're violent and you're wicked. You've set up your people to die. But oh no, we're the strongest military. Like you lean on that. Be a friend, please. So notice here, don't weep for me. Why? Well, Matthew 23. Matthew 23. I'm missing a text. Matthew 23, verse 11. Matthew 23, verse 11, verse through 15 says, But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. And whoso shall exalt himself shall be abased. And he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. So we see this in our society. What is our society? Our society is a society that walks around and talk about the evolve and talk about science. So if you start saying something, say, hey, listen, have you ever considered a garlic, garlic for your immunity? Have you ever considered that you probably need some nutrients? They'll be like, you quack, you crazy. Like, really? Proud. And you look at the people like, you look like you haven't had nutrients in a while. You look like you're flaking, literally. Remember, I was somewhere and there was a guy who was sick, and they were going to pray for the person and anoint the person. But it just so happened I was sitting right behind the person. And I'm looking at the person before this anointing, and I was thinking the person is flaking, like literally flaking. I don't think it was dandruff because the skin, everything was flaking. And I'm looking at this person, I'm thinking, man, the person look like they need some oil, like literally like oil, like sunflower oil, olive oil, soy oil, any oil. I think they really need an anointing. They need to drink the oil, all kind of stuff like that. Literally, I'm thinking that. The next thing they call the person to anoint the person, a worship service, to anoint the person. I'm thinking, anoint the person? This person needs some juice, some herbs, something that they would not tell them, because all they're going to do is just anoint them. Just anoint them with oil, make a cross on their head and anoint them. And I'm thinking, don't anoint this person. Pour the oil over the head. Do like how Moses did to Aaron. Just pour the bottle of oil and then pour it in the person's mouth and say, man, you need some oil. You're dry. But this is not FDA approved. What that modality I'm telling you about is not FDA approved. This is the society we live in. And they're dying for some herbs. They're dying for some greens, some collard greens, and some kale, and some spinach, and some lettuce. Dying. You see, and this is what it is, but that's natural. And we don't do natural. What we do is chemical. You need more chemical. So like, you have enough? And that's what we're living in. So this is the children of the mainstream because they cannot consider alternative, but they don't know why. Because somebody pull a trick on them to make money, to make coal tar derived drugs, and that's the only thing that you use for your healing. As a matter of fact, they don't talk about healing, right? And they're aggressive because they say, oh, this is weird. Like, really? Like some roots. They take some roots and put in a pot and boil. No, I'm not telling you to go outside and take some roots and put in a pot and boil. I'm just saying you need to know what type of roots. But if you live in West Virginia, somebody told me, I think Brother Green told me that he went to West Virginia and there's so much ginseng growing wild. And I'm thinking, what? And these people on drugs? You have ginseng, man. That's like one of the most expensive herbs on the planet. And that thing is good. But they're dying of drug overdose and they have ginseng. Man, I'm thinking about that thing is so expensive. So notice here, but woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrite, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For ye neither go in yourself, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in. So you look at the pastors in the church, and that's what I was talking about yesterday. They themselves need anointing, and they need an ointment. And they don't go in because they're aggressive. And I've worshiped with some of these people. They're very aggressive. You better keep quiet if you're ever into health because they attack you. And you'll be like crazy. And they just look like they're suffering. It's crazy. Dry as ever. And notice here, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you devour widows' house, for pretense make long prayer. Therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. So these are people that are wicked. They're devouring widows' house for pretense and prayer. and they make long prayers, but they're really devouring the widow's house. This is a fake. But they're going to have the greater damnation. And it is a fascinating thing to watch because this is how we live. You know, you talk about the biggest receptacles of drugs. As I say, it's a fear, whatever that is. You know, a fear woman that is over 50, that is fat, and I don't know what the other F is. And that's they're receptacles for drugs. They just swallow drugs all day long, and probably be just like, you know, the cross and the vampire. It's like the kale. If they look at the kale, it's probably scream. And that's what it is. But they've grown up in a system that told them that what they should do is just take drugs all day long. And it's not that they shouldn't take their drugs. This is not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying here that probably they should also juice some carrots. Somebody said, but Lloyd, what if I'm allergic to carrot? Well, juice something else. Juice some apples and ginger. That's one of my favorites, juice anyhow. That makes a good ginger beer. So the system, the mainline system in Christ's time, Christ was the alternative, was literally devouring widows' house for pretense and prayer. You know, you get the widow to donate your house to you, and then you pray and God bless you, bless you, bless you. Give me that house so I can go on a drug binge and stuff like that. And this is the system that we're under. You see a female, and she think, oh, they're saving me. And all she's doing is just going to get her house devoured. And she's gone dead with some drug overdose or something. Warn you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrite, for you come past sea and land to make one proselyte. This is what we have in our church. One proselyte. And when he's made, you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourself. So this is Christ talking to the system. So somebody say, does that mean, Lord, that you don't believe in the system? No, I believe in the system. I believe the system serves a purpose. But I believe that you should always have other information available. And you should get your antennas up when in almost every major media yesterday, they're running this article about bee pollen. And yet in the whole article, what they should do is interview somebody that got their breast bigger and then see if we can validate that the person got their breast bigger by taking bee pollen. But they don't do that, because if they do that, then probably somebody will say, I take my chances. And I'm like, hey, listen, take your chances, right? That's what $25. I mean, what could go wrong? Oh, you could end up in the hospital. Well, don't take your chances, right? But again, there's people who take, like all these years I've heard about bee pollen, it just never worked for me. So I can testify that it didn't work. It didn't work for me. My allergies, it didn't take my allergen, but I understand the process. They say you expose yourself to the pollens in another form, and then you basically build up immunity. I've taken stuff though. Here's the thing. I've tried what they call it. I forget the name of it. It's a certain type of remedy that it came out of, I think, Norway or some one of those countries, which is basically you take a small dosage of the poison. It works like vaccine. You take a small dosage of the poison, and it helps your body. Your body fights against it, and it clears it. I can't remember the name of the modality that came out of Europe. And basically I tried eye drop. I'm not telling you to try it, but you can buy it in the health food store. It's an eye dropper. You take the drop, and it actually beat homeopathy. Thanks very much, Tamar. So homeopathy. So I tried an eye dropper, which have bee sting in it, but it's a very small amount of the bee sting, and it will clear up my eye. So I proved it that it worked. I haven't tried it in years, but you take you put the bee sting in a very small, minute dosage, and the immune system clear out the eye, and my eye would just clear up. Very fascinating. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for your day, this day and your word. Pray that you may bless us, dear Lord, that we might walk humbly before thee, that we might not be proud and not be arrogant in the way that we do life, but we always be humble and be learners in this life. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, thanks for being with me on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow, where we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.